We're here because free speech is under attack. We're here because people are being convinced that socialism works. We're here because people are being judged guilty until proven innocent. We are fighting back with facts. This is not a safe zone, so buckle up, Buttercup. This is the raw, naked truth.
Putin endorses Harris. OPEC Plus to limit oil production. It's safe to use your cell phone and more. Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin, and here's the news you need to know. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday appeared to endorse Vice President Kamala Harris in the 2024 presidential race against former President Trump. According to multiple reports, Putin was questioned during the Eastern Economic Forum he attended in eastern Russia over how he viewed the upcoming U.S. election. The Russian president, apparently smiling alongside the event's moderator, said ultimately it was up to the American people to decide, but said that as President Biden has backed Harris, we will do the same. We will support her. She laughs so expressively and infectiously that it means that everything is fine with her, he added. A gunman shot and killed 3 Israeli civilians at an important border crossing between the Israeli-controlled West Bank and Jordan on Sunday, the Israeli military said, amid heightened tensions between Jordan and Israel over the war in Gaza. The shooter arrived in a truck from Jordan to the Allenby Bridge, the main land crossing between the country and the West Bank, and opened fire with a 9mm handgun at Israelis who work at the crossing, the military said. The shooter, whom Israeli and Jordanian authorities haven't yet identified, was killed by Israeli security forces at the scene. The 3 victims of the shooting were pronounced dead at the site of the attack. The Allenby Bridge, the main exit and entry point for Palestinians in the West Bank, has been closed until further notice by Israeli authorities. Palestinian militant groups Hamas and Islamic Jihad, both U.S.-designated terrorist organizations, praised the shooting but didn't claim responsibility. The Trump hush money sentencing has been delayed until after the election. The judge overseeing the case in which Donald Trump was convicted of falsifying business records to hide a hush money payment to porn actress Stormy Daniels pushed his sentencing to November 26th. Judge Juan Merchan said the purpose of the delay was to avoid any appearance, however unwarranted, that the proceeding has been affected by or seeks to affect the approaching presidential election. It is a win for Trump, who is also trying to get his conviction thrown out based on the Supreme Court's recent ruling that presidents have broad legal immunity. A decision is expected on that on November 12th. Representative Elise Stefanik has filed an ethics complaint against Juan Merchan for his illegal conflict of interest in the sham Manhattan trial against President Trump, alleging the Harris campaign has a newly active financial relationship with a company led in part by his daughter. The filing with the New York State Commission on Judicial Conduct came on the same day that Merchan decided to postpone Trump's sentencing in New York v. Trump. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is making clear that his forces will not agree to Hamas's demands to vacate Gaza for 2 crucial reasons: overall national security and ensuring the safe return of the remaining hostages still in Hamas captivity. Concerns continue to mount that Hamas could look to smuggle some of the remaining 97 Israeli hostages still in captivity into the Sinai Peninsula in Egypt, which has long been deemed a haven for Islamic militant groups, and where they could then be transported to Yemen or Iran. According to Netanyahu, the best way to prevent these Hamas hostages smuggling efforts is through maintaining the contested Philadelphia route, a security corridor that runs between the Gaza Strip and Egypt. prominent attorney Alan Dershowitz announced his departure from the Democratic Party, citing several anti-Jewish lawmakers that make up the ranks of the party and the recent Democratic National Convention in which Vice President Kamala Harris became the party's presidential nominee. Speaking with radio host Zev Brenner on Talk Line with Zev Brenner, Dershowitz cited the DNC, which he said gave legitimacy to anti-Israel speakers and anti-Israel protesters outside the gathering. It was the most anti-Jewish, anti-Israel, anti-Zionist convention I've experienced, he said. I was disgusted at the Democratic National Convention. Absolutely disgusted. The BBC has breached its own editorial guidelines more than 1,500 times in its coverage of the Israel-Hamas war, a new study found. The report concluded that the BBC had repeatedly downplayed Hamas terrorism, and its authors reserved the harshest criticism for the BBC's Arabic channel. One contributor, Mayasi Abdul Khalik, is said to have called for death to Israel and defended a journalist who tweeted, "Sir Hitler, rise, there are a few people that need to be burned." One former BBC executive said there was now an institutional crisis at the UK's state-funded broadcaster. Members of the OPEC Plus oil alliance have delayed plans to hike production by a scheduled 180,000 barrels per day in October as part of a program to gradually return a broader 2.2 million barrels per day to the market over the following months. The increase has been delayed by 2 months, according to two OPEC Plus sources, who could only speak anonymously because of the sensitivity of the talks. The 2.2 million barrels per day cut, which was implemented over the second and third quarters, was due to expire at the end of this month. It was undertaken by Algeria, Iraq, Kazakhstan, Kuwait, Oman, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and the United Arab Emirates as a voluntary reduction that falls outside of the official policy binding all members of the OPEC Plus coalition, which sums the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries and its allies. The OPEC Secretariat confirmed that the 8 nations would be extending their 2.2 million barrel per day output cuts in a statement later Thursday. The phase-out of these curbs is now due to start in December this year, stretching to November 2025. The Boeing Starliner returns home safely but without its astronauts. The capsule, with enough malfunctions that NASA deemed it too risky to transport its crew back to Earth, touched down in the New Mexico desert just after midnight on Saturday morning. NASA's Steve Stitch said that everything went so well with the capsule that the hindsight it would have been an easy decision to bring astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sunita Williams home on the flight. Instead, they will remain in space until February, assuming there are no delays, as they await a lift home from a SpaceX spacecraft. Finally, a long-held conspiracy theory bites the dust. There is no link between cell phone usage and cancer, according to analysis by Australia's Radiation Protection Agency of dozens of studies published between 1994 and 2022. The lead author of the review said early reports that raised alarm bells over the low-level radiation from wireless technology were usually biased cases. When asked to recall how much they used their cell phones, brain tumor patients tended to over-report compared to people without tumors. That's the Raw Naked Truth. You can catch every episode of The Raw Naked Truth at xvadio.com, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Audible, Amazon Music, and other platforms that respect freedom of speech. We'll see you next time.